In 2007, the NASCAR Busch Series welcomed a returning team to the series after 9 long years. Specialty Doug Taylor Motorsports returned to the Busch Series with their familiar number 40 car. Specialty Taylor's team had previously run from the 1994 to 1998 Busch Series, with the 40 car featuring drivers like Patty Moyes, Fedua, Kevin LePage, Jeff Fuller, Stanton Barrett, and Doug Taylor himself. In 97 starts, the team accumulated 1 pole, 13 top 10 finishes, and 1 win at Bristol in 1998.
And how? All right, we'll have a 4-lap shootout. Looks like they'll get lap 246 coming by. This time, Jarrett and LePage and Carl Simmons has the green flag.
This is the type of restart that Vinny spoke of earlier. They've gone and just went ahead and started in the single file where one more lap. And had the single file where these guys can get out front and have a good race in the last 3 or 4 laps of the race.
3 laps to go. Kevin LePage is right there, right on the back bumper of Dale Jarrett, right on his bumper, trying to take a look on the inside.
LePage trying to make a move. Jarrett hugs the bottom line. LePage right on the back of the white ring Ford. 2 to go. That time by.
And Phil Parsons is right there as well on LePage's back bumper.
It'll be white flag this time. LePage gets a shot on the inside. He nudges Jarrett up on the outside. Here comes Phil Parsons back. White flag for LePage, the leader. Parsons in second spot. Jarrett is third. On the final lap of the Food City 250. And out of turn 4, Kevin LePage and the Channel Lock Chevrolet will take the win. Parsons second. And here's the battle for position.
That was Buckshot in the 4 car battling for the 8th spot.
And I think Buckshot just nosed them out.
Once again, the red flag.
Unfortunately, after 1998, however, the team was bought out by Galaxy Motorsports, and Doug Taylor Motorsports was unfortunately done. Until returning to the Busch Series in 2007, the team attempted just one race number 32 at Memphis, aka the Samstown 250, with their number 40 entry and new driver Matt Carter. Carter impressively made the field, qualifying 31st on the grid of 49 entries. The race had a lot of problems, however, for the 40, as a spin on lap 75 topped inside the top 30 most of the day, until lap 129 when the 40 was involved in a 5-car wreck, spilling oil all over the track, retiring and relegating Specialty Doug Taylor's return to a disappointing 39th place finish. It would be Specialty Taylor's racing only attempt of 2007, but announced in late 2007 that they would run the full 2008 NASCAR Nationwide Series schedule with new driver Kevin LePage and with a new number in 61. Daytona would unfortunately be a somber start to their return to racing, as the 61 of Kevin LePage failed to qualify for the season opening race at Daytona, missing the show by 1.82 tenths of a second and being 35th on the chime charts. It was an unfortunate blow to a team returning after so many long years away. Luckily, the next 8 races for the team would fare much better, as LePage was able to qualify on time for all of them. Despite the 61 not having much sponsorship on the car, 61 scored a best of 17th at Las Vegas and had no DNFs until race 10.
That's Mike Wallace in the 7 car, Stephen Wallace in the 66, and David Stremme in another car owned by Rusty. Oh, we got a spin. It's a tap from Wallace.
Right behind you.
Oh, the big one in turn 1, heavy contact, cars in the wall. Stephen Wallace heavily damaged. There comes Kyle Krisiloff down. David Rudiman involved. Oh, heavy damage on Stephen Wallace's Chevy. He was having such a great run. And Kyle Busch has damage on the right front of his Toyota.
Kyle Busch continues to have problems finishing this race. He tried a different strategy, but he's still caught up in this race.
Ripped off. He's checking off pit road first, probably.
Yeah, Rudiman has a lot of damage with his Toyota. You see Kyle Busch coming in behind him, so he will not make it 4 in a row here. But, you know, there again, we talked about this. We set it up from the beginning.
It's Carl Edwards' car.
We saw Carl Edwards with his hand out the windows. They were coming by us here, headed to turn 1. He was waving. There's a 21 car, Stephen Light. Kenny Wallace in the 28 car as Stephen Light gets the Childress car fired, tries to pull it away.
See the intensity level coming up on
we
these
saw
guys.
Mike Wallace look like he was going below David Ruderman right here, but they ran up on a slower car. Wow.
Right. Man.
That's Kevin LePage's 61 that Carl Edwards went up across the back of. And then it all broke loose behind him. Car slipping and sliding. Kelly Byers involved. Brad Keselowski, watch again.
Oh, you see what happened here. This 61 was not up to speed, and it's almost like these guys moved over and didn't see him.
Had no idea that he was coming out. They had. I'm sure that the spotters up there saw him on the apron. They weren't expecting him to come and join back right in front of the leaders.
The Aaron's 312 for the NASCAR Nationwide Series at Talladega Superspeedway. Normally fast and frantic racing action right now is stilled under the red flag after a multi-car accident down in turn number 1. An accident begun when a car coming off pit road got onto the track in front of a steaming pack of cars at full speed.
The whole pack's coming off but they've got, talking about a piece of debris, they're all going to blow by you, so just stay low. Watch the blend line, watch the blend line. And here comes the pack. Oh.
Voice of Kevin LePage's spotter on his radio as he came off the pit lane. Kevin has come from the infield care center now. Let's hear from him with Mike Massaro.
And Alan, you can see the disappointment on the face of Kevin LePage as he assesses the damage on his car. Kevin, what happened?
Well, it all started when we had a loose wheel and I came down pit road, and as I was leaving pit road, the spotter says pack's coming, so I stayed down till I got in turn 1 and got up on the racetrack, and the first half a dozen cars or so passed me, and next thing you know I got rear-ended. So everybody's mad at me for pulling up on the racetrack, but you go to the driver's meeting, they said stay low till you get in turn 1, pull up on the racetrack, and like I said, the first half a dozen cars got by me without any problem. So my spotter's been spotting for me for a number of years, and I think she did a great job. And I was down low, had my, matter of fact, left side's lower than the apron, and there's 40 other guys up there trying to spot these things, and they couldn't see me coming out of the pits with this red and yellow race car. Then maybe they need to get new spotters.
Well, guys, obviously a very disappointed driver there.
So thoughts of Kevin LePage there on his involvement in that accident. I want to bring in DJ, Andy, and Doc from up in the booth and talk about this now. The instructions the drivers are given at the drivers' meeting about the blend rule. And let's just talk about that for just a second. Kevin is there saying that it's till you get to turn 1 and then you come up on the racetrack. Correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that the instructions for today were that you had to stay with those wheels below that line till
the 61 car was beyond repair, and the LePage was credited with a 35th place finish at Talladega. It was responded as one of the most infamous, chaotic, and hilarious moments in NASCAR history, which is still talked about to this day. But things would get a little bit better for the Specialty Taylor team in the next 3 races, including clean finishes of 29th at Richmond, 26th at Darlington, 26th at Charlotte. Unfortunately, the next race was a start and park at Dover due to not having enough sponsorship and not being able to make a profit to run the whole race. The funding for specialty racing was unfortunately starting to dry up just barely halfway into their full year return into NASCAR. The speculation in the garage that the team was shutting down. In a May 31st JSKI 2008 article, it was reported that the 61 specialty racing team does not acquire sponsorship by next week. They will not continue to race, and Dover will be their last race of the season. However, an update would see that Cone Solvents would be the primary sponsor of the 61 Front Row Motorsports entry, driven by Kevin LePage at Nashville Superspeedway. And another note, the 61 has run so far this season as specialty racing. It is unknown now if this future switch to Front Row Motorsports would continue. And yet another update said he hopes that the deal between Front Row Motorsports and specialty racing could be worked out soon to allow him to continue to drive in NASCAR Nationwide Series. Officials from both teams are negotiating a deal where Front Row Racing would take over specialty racing's car number, with LePage driving Chevys built by the Front Row team. And that was the case, as the next race, specialty racing showed up in a partnership effort with today's Cup team, Front Row Motorsports. where Front Row Motorsports would supply the car, the hauler, and the engine. The partnership would unfortunately, though, last just 5 races, which would get the 61 solid finishes of 29th at Nashville, 24th at Kentucky, 26th at Milwaukee, 24th at London, and 24th at Daytona. However, after the second race at Daytona, Kevin LePage was released from the team, and 4 days prior to the next race, former Truck Series driver Brandon Witt was brought in to drive the 61 entry. At the end of July, however, it was reported that Kevin LePage and Front Row Motorsports would file a lawsuit against Specialty Racing. In a FrontStretch.com article, Specialty Racing learned that Kevin LePage and Front Row Motorsports were filing a lawsuit freezing the assets of the company while attempting to acquire its owner points, equipment, and money the team claimed they are owed. The basis of the suit began in late May when Specialty Racing informed LePage that they did not have the insufficient funds to run the nationwide event at Dover in Delaware. In response, Specialty Racing put a proposal that would allow Bob Jenkins and Front Row Motorsports to supply a car, transporter, and engine to run under the 61 banners that weekend. The lawsuit states that after officially speaking to a NASCAR team, Specialty Racing co-owner Charles Schaffner learned that in order for his team to earn owner points in a nationwide event, they would have to supply the employees, equipment, transporter, and cars for the entire weekend. Therefore, his team could not earn points under LePage's proposal. But even with that limitation, Schaffner states that starting in June at the Nashville event, concluding at Daytona, Jenkins did provide equipment for Specialty Racing to use, incurring the team's expenses. However, when approached in July, that would allow the owner points to be transferred to Front Row Motorsports, Schaffner declined the paperwork until it was reviewed by counsel with NASCAR. Jenkins and LePage then responding by filing a lawsuit at the end of this month. It is unclear what became of the lawsuit, and unfortunately I could not find any updates. Specialty showed back up with their own assets for the next 3 races, not having enough sponsorship, though, at Chicago to run the whole race, which would relegate the 61 of Brandon Witt to a starting park, finishing 41st. A transmission issue at the next race at Gateway, finishing 28th, and another disappointing finish, despite finishing the race many laps down in 35th at IRP. Specialty would go into its ownership of 2008, this time with Stanton Barrett Racing, giving their 61 to Stanton's father, Stan Barrett, to run at Watkins Glen and Montreal, while Specialty themselves would field a second Startin Park entry for current driver Brandon Witt in the number 62. At Montreal, Stan drove the 61, but pulled off early, only running 7 laps after the rain had showed up and the team not having sufficient rain tires to run the race. The 62 in a planned Startin Park pulled off early as well. Stan Barrett would finish 39th, while Witt would finish 38th. The same lineup would go into Watkins Glen, with Stan again in the 61 and Brandon Witt in the 62. The race at Watkins Glen, but at some point during the race, which is unclear, Kenny Hendrick actually got in the car and relief drove for Stan, making 61 of the 82 laps before Hendrick pulled off with a clutch issue and finished 33rd. 62 again was a planned Startin Park and pulled off early after just 8 laps, finishing 40th. Specialty Racing again returned with its own assets and team for the rest of 2008 with driver Brandon Witt, and although getting average results, the 61 didn't have any crash DNFs for the rest of 2008. And the last 11 races of the 61 team for 2008, the results were this: a 32nd at Michigan, 33rd at Bristol, 25th at Fontana, 28th at Richmond, 23rd at Dover, at Kansas, 21st at Charlotte, 28th at Memphis, 40th at Texas, 30th at Phoenix, and 38th at the season finale race at Homestead. Specialty's 61 entry was able to stay inside the top 30 in owner points, therefore locking them into a spot at the first race at Daytona in 2009. 2009 started off way better for Specialty Racing, making the race at Daytona, Although the issues they had in the race are unknown, they didn't crash, but finished the race 18 laps down, finishing in 37th place after starting 39th. Despite a couple of on-track incidents throughout the season, the 61 of Brandon Witt did not DNF any of the first 15 races, with a best finish of 20th at Dover and Nashville, following it all together with an average finish of 26.3 in the first 15 races. After race 15, however, Brandon Witt was released from specialty racing, and unlike Kevin LePage, the release was mutual and both parties parted ways peacefully. Coming into race 16 in 2009 at Loudon, saw a returning driver in Matt Carter, who originally made the first start for the team's return in 2007. Matt Carter, now driving the 61, will put up some of the best results, giving specialties return since 2007, getting finishes like 15th at Daytona 2, 19th at Gateway, and a very impressive 12th place finish at Bristol, the best, especially considering that specialty had just 4 race-ready cars in their shop at the time. In a one-race deal, Specialty Racing brought in road ringer, then Canadian Tire Series driver DJ Kennington to drive the 61. Although Kennington qualified a solid 24th, a mid-race crash sadly gave the team a disappointing 32nd place finish. The results, unfortunately, weren't the same for 61 of Carter after he returned to the seat, as he was only getting a best of 25th twice and then having to do a start and park at Richmond, finishing 33rd. After a disappointing run at Charlotte, finishing 29th over 30 laps down, Carter was released from the team. This was now the third driver to get released from the team in just 2 years. With just 4 races left in the season, Specialty Racing hired Kenny Hendrick to do a start and park in 3 of the last 4 races of the season. Only at Phoenix did they hire then K&N driver Jason Bowles to attempt the full race. Unfortunately, a crash on lap 95 put an end to his day. As for Kenny Hendrick, his race results were as this: start and parking all 4 of them, 37th at Memphis, 37th at Texas, and a 38th at Homestead. Despite the struggles in the final part of 2009, the 61 was still able to stay inside the top 30 in owner points and was guaranteed a spot for the 2010 Daytona race. Not knowing what their plans were until February 8th, less than 2 weeks before Daytona, Specialty Racing announced its 4th full-time driver, supposedly, and developmental driver Josh Wise, at this time only having 3 race-ready cars in their shop. Specialty made the race at Daytona starting a solid 29th, but by lap 65 was already 4 laps down and had been involved in another crash. Unfortunately, the bad luck bud hit again as the 61 was simply riding in the back of the pack. There was a big crash that happened right in the 61 of Josh, and he had nowhere to go.
Oh, there we go.
We got a wreck.
Right
this is not good. This is not good.
No, she's got a multiple car crash, including Danica Patrick, among many others, here on the front straightaway. Brian Scott, the 21 of John West Townley, Colin Brown, the 31 is also in this mix of Stanton Barrett. That's what's left of the right front corner of Danica's car.
Yeah, this all developed in front of her. This crash did. She did a good job of avoiding most of it, but then just couldn't avoid all the cars in it.
That's what's left of Josh Wise's car. Okay. Lower portion of your screen.
You can see just a little bit of misjudgment there.
Yeah, that was a lap car.
Got turned.
Josh Wise was a lap car,
and she had nowhere to go.
Yeah, she just, gets by that car right there, but there's just nothing. I know it looks like room, but you're traveling at a high rate of speed, and she almost made it.
The car was destroyed, leaving Specialty with just 2 cars ready to go in their shop. Despite the Daytona setback, the team had finally able to secure from sponsorship from Stratosphere and the chain hotels Marriott and Radisson Inns, which allowed the team to run full races. A disappointing run at Fontana in 37th didn't stop Wise. In his next 4 races, Wise would put up some very respectable finishes, finishing 19th at Las Vegas, 23rd at Bristol despite crashing in the event, 20th at Nashville, and a 24th at Phoenix. Unfortunately, after race 6, the sponsorship dried up. Despite the great runs the 61 would have, it would DNQ the next 2 races at Texas and Talladega, putting the team outside the bubble to be locked in on owner points, therefore no longer having a provisional. Despite having a little bit of sponsorship coming from the Ride to Rock for Autism, Wise was forced to start and park the next 4 races at Richmond, Darlington, Dover, and Charlotte due to the lack of funding. The day after the Charlotte race, it was announced that Wise would drive part-time in the 7 team for the Junior Motorsports team, starting the very next weekend at Nashville and then the very next race at Kentucky. Needing a driver, Specialty Racing brought back its first driver, Matt Carter, for the 2 races at Nashville and Kentucky, start and parking both of them and finishing 42nd in both races as well. Josh Wise would return to the team for the 61 at the next 2 races at Road America, running just 1 lap before pulling off, and then start and parking at New Hampshire as well, running just 3 laps. After 8 straight races of start and parking, Specialty Racing did not show up on next week's entry list and took some time off, especially with the new COT car coming in, and they were looking to reevaluate where the team was heading. After 6 races, the 61 team returned out of nowhere as a last-minute field filler entry at the Watkins Glen Zippo 200 race, with a new driver this time in Chase Miller. The 61 Miller started 39th out of just the 43-car entry field and pulled off after 8 laps, finishing 37th. By this point, Specialty Racing still had 2 cars left in their shop, and in the upcoming weeks would form a partnership with a new team. After skipping the COT 23 race at Michigan, Specialty Racing put out a press release for Bristol, saying, Specialty Racing announces changes with J.J. Yaley to drive the 61 at Bristol. Specialty Racing 61 owner Doug Taylor and Rick Russell, owner of Second Chance Race Parts, have joined forces. Rick will handle the duties of team manager, while Doug concentrates on the car preparation. Last week, with limited funds and help, the team qualified 37th with the talented Chase Miller driving. Next week will be at Bristol. The team's next driver will be J.J. Yaley. With our knowledge of Bristol and the skills of J.J. and the Rouse CH engine, I'm certain we'll have a great chance of qualifying for the race, said Rick himself. The car was painted blue from the usual black cars that Specialty had been running to represent Rick's ownership in the team. Unfortunately, Yaley did not make the show, missing the race by just under 0.3 of a second and only being 46th on the time trials. Despite the setback from the team, they repainted the car and prepping it for the next road course race at Montreal with driver Pierre Bourque. Also putting out another press release saying the 61 Specialty Racing team is headed to Montreal this weekend with Canadian driver Pierre Bourque. The team has prepared their Ford Fusion, come rain or shine, to power Pierre around the famed track come Sunday. This will be Bourque's nationwide debut. He finished 7th at Montreal last year in the NASCAR Canadian Tire Series race. The sponsor for the race is Avaya, a global leader in enterprise communication systems. The company provides unified communications and contract centers and data solutions and relative service directly through its channel. This was from the Bourque PR team. Unfortunately, the luck was still not on side of Specialty Racing, as Pierre Bourque was the slowest of the go homers and missed the race by nearly 3 seconds and was 45th on the time trials. This was the last ride for Specialty Racing, as part owner Charles Schaffner sold his share of the remaining assets of Specialty Racing to Rick Russell and Doug Taylor, who would stick around, who would form Second Chance Motorsports less than a month later. They would put out yet another press release saying that Specialty Racing becomes Second Chance Motorsports saying that Specialty Racing 61 Nationwide team has a new owner and is sporting a new name. Second Chance Motorsports owner Rick Russell has acquired the majority ownership in the 61 team effective on September 1st of 2010. The team will operate under the name of Second Chance Motorsports, LLC. Our goal is to operate wisely, try hold advance the points we hold at present, in hopes of attracting a driver or sponsor looking their way into NASCAR. Ultimately, we'd like to develop a talented driver in the K&N E Series or ARCA, utilizing our current inventory of cars. We will definitely remain a Ford team, thank the Roush EH engine power we have, and obtain a hard-working crew in order to obtain more COT Mustangs for the upcoming 2011 season. And an update, the 61 team is still racing under the Specialty Racing banner, and Doug Taylor is still affiliated with the team, despite it now being fully owned by Rick Russell. There were rumblings that Specialty Racing would return under its own ownership again, not affiliated with Second Chance Motorsports in 2011, but nothing was ever heard from it, and the team itself has not been heard from since. As for the sale to Rick Russell, and as for him, well, that's a story for its own time. Specialty Racing's 2007 to 2010 combined results are as this. 3 different car numbers, 40, 61, and 62, making 86 races out of 91 attempts, using 10 different drivers, with an average start of 33.2 and an average finish of 33.8. The total prize money for the team's return was $2,105,108 in prize money and an average finish of 34th in the owner's points. Specialty Racing's return was nothing special, and the team is largely forgotten. But hopefully this video will show the fans of today the fun of the mid-pack entries that we cheered for in the late 2000s, and Specialty Racing will live in infamy with many people. Thanks to the following people for helping getting pictures of the 61 team: David Pequeen, Jayski, Charles R. Thaumann, Mid-South Racing Galleries, Jill Booster J28, Palco Gavlon, The Hot Lap, Motorsport.com, and John Harrelson. Thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe and check out all other Start and Park videos, the ARCA Racing Podcast, and again, thank you all for your much appreciated support. Take care, and we'll see y'all real soon.